Welcome to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where destiny brought together three friends to enhance each other's cinematic journey by watching three new movies in a series of themed rounds. There is no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode, as all film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy!
All right. Hello and welcome to Three Films and a Podcast. My name is Tyler Beck, and I am joined, as always, by my dear friends, Ben Lawhorn and Matt Weiler. Benjamin, I would love it so much if you could do all the social plugs. It would just mean the most to me.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot. I am a very online person, so I think I'm the person for the job here. You can find anything and everything that we do online on any social app at Three Films Pod. Instagram, Twitter are probably the top two. We are not yet on Parler or True Social. I don't think we're going to end up there at all. And then we do a TikTok once a quarter, so find us there as well. But yeah, find us on all the socials.
We're very hip and online, kids.
Very cool.
Come interact
we
with us.
We might have a fake account. Someone may have made a fake account about us on Truth Social, but we don't know.
It's not us. Yeah,
no, that's just me pretending it's not us. It's me pretending to be someone else hacking us. I like it. I'm like way in the weeds there. It's like this weird undercover program. I feel like Serpico.
Like a triple movie I haven't
seen, actually.
Oh.
So I don't even know why I referenced it, but
I haven't either. Actually,
that's not important.
Qualify for
Do you know what is important? Our YouTube channel, and I'd like Matt to speak a little bit about that.
Well, it's on YouTube.com, and
heard of it.
No, our preferred way of consuming this podcast is YouTube. If you're listening to this, obviously we'll try to put out a great product. We'll try to entertain you as best as we can, talking about movies that you hopefully haven't seen. Or hopefully now you have seen.
Yeah.
But our preferred method of consumption is YouTube or Spotify video. Ben does a lot of great work on the video production of this. There's a lot of Easter eggs that you just don't get when listening to it. And obviously you don't get to see Ben and Tyler's beautiful faces. So
all of our beautiful faces.
All of our beautiful faces.
We are Groot.
We also have a website. I don't know, Matt or Ben, I don't know if you mentioned that, but we do have a website. You can find all our merch and stuff on there. It's threefilmspod.com. We also have some information for Patreon and patron support options. But regardless, if you're here, if you're listening, if you're interacting with us on Twitter and all that stuff, we're happy to have you. We really love the movie club, and we appreciate everyone's support. Before we go any further, there's one person here, if you're watching, whose face you've seen. But if you're only listening, you have just felt his presence, because it is such a presence, and we're very happy to have him back. Longtime friend of the podcast, Ethan Simmie from 24 Minutes of A24. My dude, tell us what's been going on, how you been, all that stuff.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on the pod. Life is good. Honestly, I was able to get into the Boston Marathon, so I've been training for the Boston Marathon. That's pretty much what's going on in my life right now. So, movies, podcast, Boston Marathon, work and family, pretty low on the totem pole. But we're over here. We're doing pretty good. I'm excited to be here, guys.
Well,
Ethan's actually on a run right now.
He's literally running.
It's actually, it's a green screen behind me, so I'm just jogging as we go.
I wonder, honestly, between our drafts, I think you might be our first double-digit guest. This has got to be at least your 10th appearance, right?
Yes.
I feel like you've been on here the most. So, congrats.
That wouldn't surprise me, and I feel pretty good about it, and I hope you don't cap me. I hope it's not where I've hit my limit,
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, and you want to go back and watch all of our Ethan Simmie episodes, you could have an Ethan Simmie marathon.
You could. You guys got to make my own playlist on YouTube featuring Ethan Simmie. It's 10 videos long.
Bonus points if you listen to it in Boston.
Yes.
Or
while listening to Boston the band, you can listen to our episodes also.
Yes.
This is what this podcast is all about.
Sorry.
That sounds like a surefire way to a stroke. I don't recommend that.
Not recommended.
Well, shoot, man, I'm glad that you're neglecting your family with us. It means a lot to me. We want your kids to grow up to be artists and filmmakers. The surefire way to do that is to neglect them.
I thought you were going to be we want your kids. And I was like, you want my kids? Like literally? Like you can't have them. You scared me for a second, but no. Yes, I want them to grow up. I will say, I recently showed them Singing in the Rain, Yellow Brick Road from Wizard of Oz, and and then a couple scenes from La La Land, and they've been requesting to watch them at the end of the day before they go to bed. Nice. And I'm like, nice, I did my cinematic duty. Like they're starting to understand movies. And so I feel really good about that. Wonderful. So this is beneficial. We'll just put it in the mix.
Finally starting to be a good dad.
Finally,
5 years later.
To what other people have created, I'm now a good dad.
Right.
Well, I love it. I appreciate it. And I'm really happy that you're getting that experience with your kids. I don't have kids. I don't think I'll ever have kids. So it's fun to be able to live through that through like you and Ben or you and Matt. Yeah, none that I know of. Yeah.
If you're listening and you're looking for Tyler and he is your father, like and subscribe.
You know.
It's actually a pretty decent segue into this movie that we're going to talk about this week. Has a lot to do with finding family and lost connections. So this week's episode finds us right smack dab in the middle of our stop motion round. I mean, at least I think it does, unless something happens between now and release. Like it's scheduled to go out in the middle of this round. And so far we've watched Pinocchio by Guillermo del Toro, which, do you notice how good I said that?
You nailed it, dude.
Yeah, that's good.
You've been practicing.
I've genuinely been practicing. Guillermo.
You killed it.
Guillermo del Toro's version of Pinocchio, of course. And we're going to watch Kubo and the Two Strings next, which I'm very excited for. And that is all in addition to this week's movie, which stars Jenny Slate, Dean Fleischer-Camp, who also directed the film, and Isabella Rossellini. That's right. We are here to talk about 2021's, which I didn't realize, like, 2021? Really? I don't know. It seems like it came out yesterday to me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But anyways,
I wonder if it was like a December.
Yeah. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which I thought came out like a month ago, but apparently it's been out since 2021. Time is weird and time doesn't make sense. But yeah, I don't know. I just I want to dive right into like everyone's personal experience and first impressions, because I mean, I don't really know how you can really set this movie up. It's any better than the title, right? It's about a shell named Marcel with Shoes On. Started as an internet short, 10 something years ago. So anyways, Ethan, what was your like personal experience with Marcel as an IP, and then with this movie and your first impressions and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I knew of like the YouTube video. I didn't really like grow up with it. I wasn't like, oh my God, they're making a movie about the YouTube video. Like I didn't really have that connection to it. But it did come to Portland during its like kind of release, when it wasn't officially like nationwide. I was able to get free tickets. Like the theater was just giving out free tickets. It must have been like an A24 sponsored gig. I think Ben was supposed to come to town and then ditched me. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. So that already put me in a bad spot for this movie. I'm going to be honest with you. So I went and at my local theater, Hollywood Theater, had a slice of pizza during the movie, which was great. I got a pizza stand on my white A24 shirt. Not great, but perfect. The movie was excellent. I loved the movie. I think this script is so witty and it's so tight. And Ben and I had the privilege to interview Disasterpiece, the guy who scored this movie, on our podcast, 24 Minutes of A24. So we kind of got some insight into that. And I think the score is really ethereal and it's hilarious. And it's just absolutely soul crushing by the time you get to the last 20 minutes. And I think it's kind of it's not perfect, but I think it's pretty dang impressive. Like, I think it's a really solid 4-star movie, in my opinion. I think it's a really, really good watch. And I actually rewatched it this weekend with my family, with my kids, with my wife. And they retained their attention for 90 minutes and they watched this movie. And I think that's saying something to Marcel and to, the entire team behind the movie. I had a delightful time.
Yeah. I want to get into everyone else's, but I will say that this movie was paced like just perfectly. Like it's hard to let your attention wander too much. I mean, it just holds you and keeps you right in his cute little shell-cased heart. Just me and Marcel, my dude. Matthew, what was your experience with all this?
Yeah, I really liked it. I did not watch any BTS or know of any. I didn't know anything about this movie going into it. I saw a couple trailers before I saw it, but outside of that, I didn't look into it really. And so I was really endeared to the little creatures that they made. I liked how obviously there's a real life element to it. They're in the real world, but like they're taking these like the way the spiders were done were very like cute but very cool.
Yeah.
But like they didn't they were the real spiders in this world, and Marcel was taken in earnest as like, you know, it was, they didn't treat him like a shell that shouldn't be talking. It's like, no, it's Marcel, you know?
Yeah.
And so I like that part of it. I thought it was very inventive. One thing I really liked about it, and I don't know what the process for this movie looked like at all, but the way it looked like I could have done this in my house. Obviously not as well, but like it had that home movie feeling where it's like I could grab a camera, I could, you know, storyboard this out and create this myself, which I really liked, because I feel like people who see that, it can be inspired to create their own stuff. So it's inspiring in that way. It's like, you know what, I should get my camera out and just make something, which is different from other stop motion projects, because while I'm sure a lot more work went into this than it looked like, you watch like Nightmare Before Christmas and it's like, I could never do that. I could never make this big production. Whereas this one, even though there's a lot of like technical stuff that you just don't notice because it seems so basic and so easy. Like one scene that really called my attention was when they're like driving around the city and Marcel's on the map, and just like the lighting and the changes and all that. It's like, that looks so easy and basic, but the fact that it's stop motion there is pretty crazy. And so
it's so hard.
That was really my thing. I just thought it was really inventive and super cool that, you know, someone, you know, went through the process of creating this.
Can I say one thing to that, Matt? I think it's a great point that you bring up, because there are two specific moments in this movie where I was like, oh, that's really witty. Like, it's a really good meta commentary on like what it's like to be a filmmaker, where it's like Marcel presses Dean Fleischer-camp to like, you know, ask him like, do you think your life would be better if you just stopped making movies and like connected with people? And if not everything was behind a camera?
You know, Dean, have you ever thought that your life might be a bit less lonely and a bit more integrated if you took the time to connect with somebody and not just make videos about them?
And I do think that, you know, to your point, like kind of illuminates this world of like, this is what people's lives are. Like, this is a passion. This is what has to be done. Like Dean Fleischer-camp specifically, but like if you have that drive, if you have that passion, like you get up and you have to have everything in front of a camera, and like that's just your life. And I think there were some really, really good comments on that kind of make it a lot more accessible to someone watching, where it's just like, oh, that's really funny, but also very true at the same time. And especially delivered through the lens of Marcel, it's adorable. And it's like, oh my God, he's got a point, you know? It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. I didn't really think about this, but Dean has the only real arc in this movie, right? He goes from being a shut-off voyeur to being like open and inviting Marcel into his life and opening himself up, and he goes on 60 Minutes and gets on camera. I mean, Marcel starts as an isolated shell, and he ends an isolated shell. But he has the same, like, he finds his family, but he never really changes, right? He's still that same whimsical, like, wondrous little one-eyed shell, but now he just has to work a little bit harder for his solitude. And I think that's really interesting. Like, the main character doesn't really have the arc, but it's more behind the camera. And I wonder, I mean, it seems like this has to be like somewhat autobiographical, right? I don't know for sure. But I don't know.
Marcel spent maybe 12 months by himself.
Prepping for this role.
I mean, for a shell, you know, he doesn't use clocks like we do, you know.
It's true.
I like, Matt, that your point about just, you know, picking up a camera and making something, because it's so true. When you think of this character at like on paper, right? Yeah, it's a little shell with shoes that talks, and it's like, okay, great, what's so special about that? But obviously they made something incredible about it, or out of it. But I agree with everything you said, but I think another thing that I think would be important by being inspired by this movie to go create something is you said it looks like it's easy to make. And I know that this movie wasn't easy to make, or any movie's easy to make, but it would really show you if you really were inspired and you picked up your cell phone and tried to make a stop motion, you'd probably give up in like 45 minutes because it would be impossible. Like these things are a miracle. And apparently this thing took about 7 years to make. I don't know if that was like full-time production or just over 7 years off and on. I don't really know, but any project like this just blows me away. It always reminds me of that scene from Parks and Rec. I don't know if you guys remember that, where Ben Wyatt does a stop motion project and he works on it for like 2 weeks and it's like 2 seconds long.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's the whole thing. That's 3 weeks of work. You're going to be okay.
But Benjamin.
Yeah.
I haven't let you speak very much, so please fill my ears.
That's quite all right. For anyone that's listening and yelling in their car, the 2021 release, I guess it got shown at Telluride in September of 2021.
Okay.
But it came out in the States wide in July of 2022. So I know
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, some stickler out there who's like, you guys, I went to Telluride in 20. So just nip it
every
in the
night
bud.
before they go to bed, they check the wiki page and they're just like,
there's just
gotta
so
say
much,
2021.
like, hate email that we get of these things that we get wrong. So I just want to get ahead of it.
So Donnie from Telluride, you don't have to email us this time.
Yeah, delete the draft. We're good. Don't worry. I mean, yeah, I love this movie. I was aware of the YouTube shorts. I think I actually saw them when we were working at the airport, Tyler, at Tattletale. I think someone had shown me them. There is super funny. I mean, 7 years to make it. I think there is an autobiographical aspect to it because Jenny Slate and Dean Fleischer-Camp, when they made the YouTube shorts, were married. And now they are divorced when they were making the movie. So I do think there is some of the autobiographical stuff about Dean and whatever, and like new relationships, which I can't imagine what that's like to film that, but I think it's so well done. The creativity behind creating all these little objects and how they utilize them. Like one of the end scenes where Marcel finds everyone and then like the ice skating rink is dust, it's like, that makes sense. Like I never would have thought about that, but it's like super cute, or like using the honey to walk on the walls and stuff like that. Like that's genius. And I think, for, 30 seconds when I watched it the first time, it's just like, well, how does he like reset the lines, or how does it, but it's just like, that's not what this movie is. Like, don't worry about it. Like,
how does he go to the bathroom?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, that's not what,
where does he work?
You don't have to worry about this stuff. It's just like, it's Marcel. And there's so much cute stuff, like almost like meta stuff where Marcel watches the old YouTube shorts or what, I mean, at the time, I guess is happening then, but so much hilarious commentary. I do think there probably was a lot of like improv, dialogue, which I liked. One of my favorite lines is just like one of the YouTube quotes is like, oh, she's so cute. It's like, I'm a boy. Like I have pink shoes. My dad had pink shoes. My grandpa had pink shoes. It's just like for Marcel, it's like, yeah, pink shoes means you're a boy,
She's the best. What? But my dad has pink shoes. So did my grandfather.
That kind of stuff is so funny. And then my other favorite scene is just like, not scene, but just line is talking about grandma having an accent because she's from the garage. It's just like, that's so funny. It's like, yeah, how do you address the Isabella Rossellini is Nana Kane and why she has a different accent? It's like, oh yeah, she's from the garage, which is like far away when you're a Shell. That totally makes sense, like so.
But you know what? She really does like the dust. For her, it's special. She's not from here. She's from the garage. That's why she has the accent.
Oh, it's this wonderful smell.
They address that stuff really well, and are able to make light of it, and really, again, just like we don't have to focus on necessarily like all of like how do they do this every single time, as much as just like enjoying like how he's discovered that he can do it. So super cute movie. It's like the filming of, I can't imagine working on anything for 7 years, like just to come up with something that's less than 100 minutes long. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. It's like 7 years, but I think they came up with a great, man. It's like, it's so sentimental, I guess maybe that's like the right word. I don't know. Like it really got the emotions out of me though, like seeing it in the theater. It's like, and it just goes to speak to the power of movies that like a Shell, was able to get that out of me. So, I don't know. I love this movie. I'm really glad that you picked it.
Thanks. I'm glad too.
This was my first time watching this movie since my best friend passed away, or one of my best friends passed away recently, last month. So the movie is incredibly nuanced in its ability to tackle like the fragility of life and like the fear of change. And like, of course that makes sense from a Shell's perspective because the world is massive and like, your dog is a piece of lint and like things change and like that's a big deal. But, from watching it with this perspective now, and especially with like Nana and her storyline of, kind of falling, passing away, getting worse, getting that big energy bump for a few days and then getting worse and passing away. Like that is literally what I experienced with my friend. So like that hit really, really hard and really personally. And Marcel, especially in the end, sitting on that windowsill saying like, the wind moves through me. This is what the world is. And this is how I get to be a part of the world now, and kind of being open to that change and growth and evolution is so incredible from a script written, in the perspective of Shell. Like it's just hard to imagine that something can hit that deeply. So I just wanted to mention, like, I think this movie has a lot at its core that it really, really hits on very, very well. But then Ben, to your point, like two of my favorite moments, is near the beginning when Marcel's like, could that be a name? Whale jet ski? And I'm just like, that is hilarious. Like we did it. That's incredible.
Wait, Kensley.
What is it?
Waves. Whale jet ski.
You're thinking of
Jet
Wayne.
ski. Whale.
Wayne.
Could that be his name? Whale jet ski?
Well.
And then, the whole point, the whole part where Marcel's reading YouTube comments and is like, it says like peace and love. And he's like, well, yeah, peace. Yeah, no, war. Let the battle begin, Marcel. And it's like, that's hilarious. But it's also like, I think it's a great insight into like, the commonalities of the world and like how we try to kind of like, say certain things that maybe we don't mean, or like that everybody does mean and like doesn't need to be said, or like whatever. I just think there's a lot to tackle there, and the humor really ties it all together. So my point is, if you've lost somebody, I think this is a great kind of therapy movie to kind of walk through that process, and I think it does that very well.
Like, what a weird thing to try to test to see if someone else is into. Like, of course I'm into peace. No, sorry, I'm a real war person. No, war. Actually, I sign all my personal letters. War. Let the battle begin, Marcel.
Also interesting to show how Anna Connie like covers it. Like when we see the crayon, so she has like some color on her shell and throwing the shish kebab away like immediately. It's like, oh no, that was great, and seeing the spiders eat it. Like it's interesting because Anna Connie knows how important, like, because this is like in the midst of all like the 60-minute stuff, right? Like with Leslie Stahl, it's like, no, I need Marcel to do this, but like it's really touching to see their connection. But again, it's like it's bookended by like Nana Connie do the song, like tick 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 tick, like all that kind of stuff. Like, can you imagine getting Isabella Rossellini to do the 60 minutes, like clicking, the clock is like, it's crazy to be able to do that. But this thing just balances like so many emotions really, really well.
First, I'm really sorry to hear about your friend, Ethan. I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. So my condolences.
Life,
but I think, so what you just said, that's life. I think that's like kind of at the core of what this movie is, right? Like, as we've been talking, especially when we talked about Dean's arc versus Marcel's, I was wondering, like, I think maybe this movie's actually about Dean. We just only see Marcel. Like, it's kind of like how No Country for Old Men, a lot of people say it's about Tommy Lee Jones, even though he's only sort of the bookend to the movie.
Because it is, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. But I lost my train of thought there. I started thinking about No Country for Old Men. I love that movie. But I just think, not to diminish what you were saying, Ethan, I think you're 100% right. But I think this is a movie that's sort of easy to attach your own traumas to, right? because it does deal with like some of the most like weighty, like, what are we doing here? What am I doing? What is all this for? Sort of, thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that the person that carries us through this is this like clueless but very confident little shell.
Mm-hmm.
Like Marcel is wrong all the time, but he's so confident that he's not.
Yeah.
Like when he's so positive that you just go higher, we'll see the car. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's one car.
Yeah.
We just get up higher. Like, and he's so confident. He's like, no, I'm actually pretty sure that's going to work,
Yeah,
and
you're wrong.
and,
I'm pretty sure.
yeah. And I just think like, I think that's a pretty cool way to like navigate all these things, because we all think we have it figured out, right? Or at least I do. I shouldn't speak for everyone. You guys probably do have it all figured out, but I feel like I have it all figured out and I'm pretty confident, but then, something comes along and sets you straight, right? And illuminates just how, wrong and unprepared you are, and changes your point of view. And I love that Marcel is the person that we get to like sort of learn that through, right? Because he more or less takes it in stride and just like expands his worldview, but just kind of, keeps on shelling, keeps on rolling along in that tennis ball. I don't know. But I think that's why I like this movie so much, is because it is so simple, but it is so smartly written, and it's so well, done and well acted. The voice acting's really good. Jenny Slate's incredible, but it's heavy stuff, man. It really is a heavy movie, but it's like 100 pounds of feathers, right? It's like everything in that bag is light, but everything is so heavy. And I don't know. I just thought it was beautiful. Ethan, you said it was a perfect 4-star movie. I agree. I gave it 4.5 stars.
Nice.
Because like, I just was like, I don't know what else I could possibly want in a movie. But for some reason, it just felt weird to say, I'm trying to be more careful with my 5-star ratings. I used to just throw those things out like it was, if I liked a movie, it was 5 stars. And I like almost everything. So
that's the Flynn Slicker method, right, Ben?
Yeah.
5 stars or nothing.
5 stars.
Yeah. Is that the social media manager for Letterboxd?
Yeah.
Nice. I need to check out that episode, but she's on an episode that I haven't seen the movie. So anyways, I don't know, man. I love this movie. What a treat. I've been wanting to watch it for a long time. I didn't have any familiarity with the shorts as well. And in fact, I almost, when I saw they were making a movie, until I saw the studio, I was like, okay, A24 is going to be able to figure out how to do this. At least I think. I've liked most of the things that come out of that studio that I've seen. But I was like, how much more could you do out of these shorts? I wasn't entirely sure. So I guess what I'm saying is I might have needed a nice elevator pitch to help entice me to watch this movie.
Fascinating.
Interesting.
Luckily for me, I had people like Ben and Ethan, whose opinions I trust, said they liked it previously. But I don't know. I want to hop in the elevator and see if we can find a scene to entice people to watch this movie if they haven't already.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
And Benjamin, I would like to start with you.
Well, I would like to compliment that segue. That was wonderful.
That was good. That was like Sean Fantasy levels of segues. That was pretty good.
Flawless.
He wishes.
Fantasy slander. Yikes.
Man, like there's so many. Like I see what you guys have all chosen, and like they're all perfect. I do want to do just like a super quick honorable mention because it happens during the credits, and I think it's like a cousin shell that's played by Nathan Fielder and does the honey, but just like keeps sliding down the wall. She's like, no, you gotta keep going up. It's like, no, this is what I want to do.
His brother.
Oh, brother. Oh, okay. Brother. Yeah. Like this is exactly what I want to do. Just like sliding down.
Fun,
like
he said.
This is how it is like having Nathan Fielder do that is
it's how
perfect.
I have fun.
Yeah, it's so good.
Just put your weight on the front foot and then you unstick the back foot.
Yeah, I can do it.
I know, right, but you have to keep doing it.
I'm fine.
Well, all right, but do you see
I know
what's happening? Okay.
So I love that. But a bigger scene, we kind of hit it on it earlier. It is that car ride scene and kind of what leads to it, because I think on the YouTube, Marcel sees the car that the guy has, like, okay, so we just need to get higher up to see it. And I like that he asks Dean, like, what's your mantle? And he's like, what are you talking about? It's like, your mantle, like when you need to see stuff from high up. And then we just cut to Marcel on the mantle, and he's like, see? And he's like, yeah, no, I get it. Like, I get what you're saying, but it's so cute to see Marcel up there. It's like, the mantle, you're up here now.
What's like your mantle? Like when I need to look out over the whole rug, I get up high, I get up on the mantle. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I can see these.
Got it.
Yeah.
But then actually in the car ride, and I think they do it like 3, maybe 4 times, but Marcel vomiting every time gets me, because like he's so embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, and Dee just laughs like, it's fine, then just later on just asking more questions. But it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're a shell, you've never been in anything that moves like that, so it totally makes sense. But just the thought to have that kind of stuff in there of him like standing on the map and just like, that whole sequence, I really enjoy, because it's really kind of Marcel's, I think, only time out of the house, so we kind of get to like adventure with him in a new location and just see him discovering part of the world for the first time. But all the humor that goes with it. I mean, I'm a sucker for a good, bodily fluid joke, and we get a few of those here. So I'd go with the car ride would be my pick.
I think I'm okay. God, I am so sorry. Oh my God. How many times a day do you throw up in your car?
Yeah, and it's another example of his stubborn ignorance, right? His confident ignorance. Like, what's your mantle? It's like, it's one of those things. Like, some words are just ubiquitous, right? Like, for whatever reason, we all call it a coffee table. Like, who know, like, whatever. But I use coffee table specifically because when I was a kid, I wasn't sure if everyone called it coffee table, and it blew my mind when somehow just everyone knew how to call it, that it was called a coffee table.
Like, you guys call it that also? Wow.
I really was like, I don't remember exact situations, but there would be times where I would be afraid to refer to a coffee table as a coffee table because I wasn't sure if anyone else would understand it. But Marcel doesn't have that problem. He's like, what's your mantle? Because to him, that's the whole world. That is the thing. And I don't know. I just really loved how confident Marcel was, and despite not knowing a goddamn thing. But also maybe he knows everything. I don't know.
I mean, this has, nothing to do with this, but I just want to comment that I think the coffee table thing is so funny because having grown up in a religious household where we couldn't drink coffee, that did kind of throw me for a loop as a kid. Because I was like,
we didn't drink coffee.
We don't have coffee. Like, why is it a coffee table?
Is there a hot chocolate table?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is this our Diet Pepsi table? The coffee table threw me off, but I think that's really funny. I haven't thought about that in a very long time. It's like, that's just what it is.
I've always been somewhat fascinated with ubiquity, like why did we all draw that stupid little S with the 3 lines and the,
hell yeah, dude. Gotta do something during middle school. I'm not paying attention.
Because you're a G, man.
You're boss.
That or a yin yang, right? There's only a few options, maybe some stars. Okay, Ethan, what was your elevator pitch? Let's get back on track here.
I'm going to take all the allotted time that you give me in the elevator. So we'll go for a little bit of a long elevator ride, but I'm going to choose like the first like 7 or 8 minutes. This kind of, to me, this really encompasses exactly who Marcel is. You said like that confidence, that like spryness, that like kind of verve for life that Marcel has. You get a lot of the one-liners in the first 10 minutes where you really kind of get roped into this style of comedy. You get a great tone set. You figure out how Marcel, shakes the tree and gets food, how Marcel does go to the garden, how Marcel travels in the tennis ball. And then you get introduced to Nana. And then you also kind of arrive at really the next kind of part that pushes the movie forward of Dean, like, uploading a video to YouTube. And then you kind of like start to understand like, oh, Marcel's world is going to be expanded and Marcel's going to have to figure out how to deal with that and learn from that. So I think that really encompasses a lot in terms of what the movie represents and what it stands for. You get the bread room, which I think is a really underrated joke in the movie.
Good. This is my bread room. It's a bedroom, but I sleep on a piece of bread, so I just... I actually like the concept of having a dog. Oh God, I can smell his face.
And, it's kind of a little dirty play because it is so funny and it is so light on its feet. And then 30 minutes later, you're like, hey, gotcha. You're roped in now to some really hard stuff. And, but I think it's good. I think that would be my elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Also, I think you're like the Burj Khalifa if you're having like a 7-minute elevator ride. You know what I mean?
There we go.
Like,
yeah, it's a win-win.
Go all the way up.
All the way.
Maybe the elevator got stuck, you're trying to
Yeah,
kill
I
some
like
time.
that.
That's fair. But
So your
if your
attention off
elevator
of it.
gets stuck, I feel like you're not going to be in the right headspace for Marcel. You know what I mean? So I'm going with Burj Khalifa.
I like, I love that scene. I really liked seeing. I guess what I'm trying to say, I liked what we were shown. I liked the things that were explained to us, and I'm happy about the things that weren't explained to us. I guess specifically, I was curious the whole time, like, how did Dean find Marcel, right? Like, how did they come to meet? Was he freaked out, or are talking shells like a thing that people come in contact with?
Great
in this
question.
world? We don't know, and at the end of the movie, it kind of doesn't really matter, and I don't think there would have been any satisfying way to show that.
No.
Because that's not really what was important, right? Like, it's just important where we end up, but
yeah.
I don't know, and I like that we see that they eat, and I don't know. I thought the setup was perfect. I think what we got was like exactly what we needed. I think any more would have been, detrimental.
When Dean exposes them to popcorn, it's like, oh, you guys are gonna love
You
this.
can eat it.
It's like, you can eat this. It's like, oh, you're gonna love this. So good.
Yeah, I love that. Matthew, what's your elevator pitch?
So I already stated this. One of my favorite parts about the movie is just how matter of fact this world is in the real world. And I guess my view on this, Tyler, to sort of address what you just said, I feel like there's nothing strange about Marcel talking to him or the world around them. I think he's just like a cute little shell that this guy happens to be a little roommate with now.
Yeah.
Like the story on 60 Minutes wasn't that there's this little talking shell. It was that this shell is looking for his family, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
And so I really liked that aspect of it, and to show, and as we stated, the effort that went into showing how they're living about their lives. And obviously there's a million questions that we could get into, but like they're showing enough, and they're showing that enough thought went into some of these little processes every day that we don't care, because like we could just go down the list and we could be there all day. Like you could do that with anybody, like an actual person. Like, well, who takes their kids to school? Who does this? And so we see enough that we stop caring about all the stuff that doesn't really matter. But one of my favorite parts in that setup is just seeing grandma's routine in the garden.
Yeah.
Was my favorite thing, because it showed like some daily chores. I like that later on in the movie, Marcel tries to go into her garden to kind of do some of the stuff that she would do, and he's just like completely lost.
Yeah.
And like that's also like a really like very bittersweet thing that we deal with in real life too. Like you don't realize the people that you're relying on for certain things until you don't have them anymore. And so I love seeing that, but I think the first time you see grandma sort of go through this like sort of like farming daily routine there in the garden, and her interactions with the insects and her mastery of what she's been able to do over the years. That's when I was like fully bought into this world that they created, where it's like, okay, there's this world going on in a less Quantumania sort of way. There's this little world going on around in this big world.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool.
Can I call out one moment that I'm curious? You guys can speak on it if you want. I'm really curious, because the first time that I watched it, I was like, it's kind of a throwaway, like 2 minutes or whatever. The second time I really thought it was actually a really fascinating thing to put in the movie is after Nana passes away, Dean is in that tree, right? And Dean is filming that tree, and he gets a neighbor that's like, hey, get down. I don't have insurance. I'm going to be held liable. You got to get out of my tree. And Dean just says like, okay, like I got it, whatever. I think it's really easy to see how that could be like a detractor, and it does feel kind of odd. But the second time I saw it, I was like, that is such a great representation of like Marcel's world just got flipped upside down. Dean is following his passion and documenting this story so we can all see it. This asshole neighbor is just an asshole. He's just like living his life, being a terrible person, and is like, get out of my tree. No recognition for anything that's going on around him. doesn't question Dean of like, hey, what, like, you know, what are you filming? Why are you up there? He asks like, what, you know, you have a camera? Are you with a studio or something? But like, he doesn't really poke or prod or anything. And I think it's a really kind of nuanced and subtle way to tackle that bridge between that really emotional scene and then moving to kind of like the final 25 minutes of the film. I really liked it a lot, and I think a lot of people might overlook it. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out into the world.
It was an interesting moment, and I kind of took it as like, I don't know, I guess I kind of took it as a reminder that like not everyone cares.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
Not everyone.
You just you don't know what's going on in someone else's life. It's just like to that guy, the most important thing was he didn't want to get sued.
Yeah. And like all the people that have been in his neighborhood taking pictures in front of this house, the dude's probably at his wit's ends. Like, but yeah, I didn't pay much attention to that scene. I just kind of took it as like, oh, that was silly. But yeah, that's interesting.
What I liked about it is we've seen all the escape videos where like someone who works at the building comes out like, hey, you guys aren't supposed to be around here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To me, it added a level of authenticity to sort of what I was saying earlier. Like this movie feels like he just picked up a camera and just made this movie in his backyard. That's the way he made it feel. And so like from a documentary aspect and like I guess a skate tape aspect, it's like, here's the guy that's like, hey, you're not supposed to be my tree.
Yep.
I guess what's missing is the cop showing up and
that's true.
That was
kicking him out.
Going back to what you were saying, Matt, in your elevator pitch about setting up their little world, that was actually one of the things I liked the most is when Marcel's trying to trace his family tree pictures and the light goes out and he's asking for help.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, well, just do it like if you weren't here. And he's like, well, sometimes I just don't get to do things.
Yeah.
And
I just don't get what I need.
His little attitude about that, like he was just like, I don't know, man. Like if I can't light it, like I just don't have light. And I think like it was just an interesting little moment, both in the way that Marcel navigated that, like not to say he's resigned to it, but he just kind of understands. He's like, well, I don't know. Like if I guess I just don't get to light a match now. That's fine. Yeah. Like, and I think that was like a nice little, for me, like a little life lesson. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Sometimes you just don't get to do things, and it's fine. You just, make the best with what you have. But I also thought that was a nice little way to answer all those questions. Like, well, how does he do this? How does he do that? How does he do this? We get to see all the important things, and then just sometimes he just doesn't get to do the other things, and that's fine. Yeah. But speaking of his little family tree, that would be my elevator pitch. From when he starts playing taps into the little swirly macaroni, all the way through saying goodbye to his old neighbors. I liked it because it was it had like a good mix of like the happy sad that you're gonna get in this movie. You know what I mean? Probably the hardest I laughed in the movie when he says, whichever one it was, like swallowed a pepper and sneezed into the wall or whatever. Like simultaneously the funniest and scariest moment of his life. And I don't know. Just that whole sequence. I think it's cool because it shows you a little bit of his world, how he interacts with the world around him, playing the music and the macaroni. He knows what taps is, apparently, which is kind of wild, but he doesn't know who Wayne Gretzky is. I don't know. All those little idiosyncrasies are really fun to me.
Yeah.
And I think just this scene has all of those, and it's not too spoilery, and it hints at like a larger Shell universe. So like maybe like, oh, cool. Like I think it would help to show someone that's not just about this one shell. There's like a whole thing going on here. And so I think that would be pretty enticing. But again, probably the funniest part of the movie to me.
It's so tender too, because like when he's going through and mentions his neighbors and he's like, we had a language barrier, but I loved them so much and they were my best friends. And it's like, that's awesome. Yeah. Like that's what life should be. Like you should just like love people. And that's, it's so fantastic. It's so tender.
Yeah. It's very sweet. This movie is very, very sweet. I don't have a cool segue for this. And I feel like I set myself up and like,
it was the Fennessy, it was the Sean Fennessy slander. It took you down, dude.
True. I got too big for my britches. But we have a segment we like to do, sponsored by our good buddy, Adam Driver, good friend of the pod.
Yeah.
He's a busy guy, so it's hard to get him on here, but as a substitute, he lets us use his name and we put together a double feature segment in honor of Adam Driver. So we have the Adam Driver drive-in double feature. in which we're going to pair another movie with Marcel the Shell.
I just had sex. I'm about to eat nachos. It's the greatest moment of my life.
And we're going to create our dream double features. And Ethan, I sure would like it if you went first.
All right. Well, I will say before we started recording, Ben and I just got done recording a Top Gun Maverick episode for our podcast, and I always have a really hard time with these double features. Like, it's just hard for me. Like, I don't know. It's just like a problem that I have. I just can't like come up with double features. So I asked Ben, and I was like, "Can I just like say Top Gun Maverick? Because like it's a great movie and like it'd just be fun." He said I could. That's not my answer, but I will say if you need a double feature with anything, Maverick's a great second choice if you're looking to really spice things up. I will pick Obvious Child. This is also an A24 film, also starring Jenny Slate. So you're kind of getting that very same type of humor. It's got Plop from The Office, which is great as well. Some incredibly hilarious moments talking about how wearing Crocs is like equating to doing cocaine for the first time. There's some really, really good stuff, but it's also, you know, in the same vein as Marcel and tackles, you know, Jenny Slate's journey in trying to seek an abortion and trying to figure out how to do her life with a kid incoming and someone that she thinks she loves but it's not sure. So you kind of get a lot of that same vibe. So if you're trying to like kind of keep that tone throughout your night or over the course of 2 nights, I think this is a great double feature. You know, show Jenny Slate the love that she deserves, because people need to watch these movies. Obvious Child is fantastic.
It's a great movie.
I can't say that I've seen it. But
good. We've covered it on the podcast. So 24 Minutes of A24. Shameless plug. Go check it out.
Okay. Well, I have to watch the movie first, and then I will listen to you.
I'll allow it.
Nice.
But let's go to your A24 partner next. That's Benjamin Lawhorn. Did we talk about which one you're playing first and second?
Oh,
like
no.
which one goes first, Ethan?
Oh gosh, that's a really, really great question. I think I'm gonna go with Obvious Child first, Marcel the Shell second. Marcel the Shell seems to me to carry the tone of like, you know, very Marcelly of like, let's cozy into the couch and pop some popcorn and have some tea, and then we can watch Marcel for 89 minutes and just have a delightful time. Obvious Child is kind of a more of a warm-up film.
I like it.
That's great. My real choice, if we were allowed to talk about TV on this pod, which we're not, would just be a supercut of all the Jean-Ralphio and Mona Lisa Saperstein stuff from Parks and Rec.
Yes.
I would just watch that for like 2 hours because she's like the best. She's so funny in that.
Daddy, money.
Money, please. Yeah.
Hold up. I will do John Mayer again. Daddy, someone set a fire in your car because you took too long and I got bored. Money, please.
So yeah, that'd be my real pick. But what I am going to go with is WALL-E, which is one of my favorite Pixar movies. You know, kind of the same. My idea here was just like what we normally don't think of as objects that we communicate with, like being our protagonist. Obviously, WALL-E, like the robot, he's not necessarily like inanimate like the shell should be, but he also like doesn't speak. So there's like just kind of this weird barrier. Kind of seeing how they interact with the space that they're in, because you know WALL-E is also on his own for the most part, for a while anyways. And I don't know, I love that movie. I don't even know what gets like classified as underrated or whatever anymore, but I will say I don't feel like I hear enough about WALL-E when it comes to like the best Pixar movies. So I would just love for people to give it a chance. The cinematography on it is like, it's amazing what they were able to create. And again, to have a protagonist that doesn't even speak really, you know, at all, and to still be like, you know, taken in by him, is just fantastic. So that's what I would go with. I'd show Marcel first, and then I would go into WALL-E after that.
Nice.
Love WALL-E, dude. You're right. Like for some reason, I feel like I don't hear too much talk about WALL-E, but every time I do, it's like high in someone's ranking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the most
Pixar
highly
movie,
rated, underrated.
Yeah.
First Pixar movie to be in the Criterion Collection. So, you know, it's getting
That's
some
true.
respect out there.
Very true.
I dig it. Okay, Matthew, what's your double feature?
So as I had mentioned earlier, I felt like this movie has the capacity to inspire, filmmakers, give them new ideas, to be inventive. And I can't help but wonder if this movie might have accidentally inspired Disney, and keep an eye out in 2040 when they attempt a live action version of Toy Story. And they use some of the cues. Yeah, I can picture Andy's parents, getting into it a little bit, and them adding a layer there of I don't know, children growing up in that environment and the toys playing that way. So anyway, all this to say, I'm showing Toy Story first.
Nice.
A lot more lighthearted, a lot more magical, fantastical, a little bit, and then we'll get themey with Marcel afterwards.
Nice.
But I did want to I have a couple honorable mentions. Actually, I'm just going to use one honorable mention. There's a music video, and Ethan talking on some of the heavier parts of this this movie. I just wanted to call this music video out. We referenced that scene at the end where, well, I guess this whole movie kind of revolves around Marcel's relationship. One of the linear parts of this movie is Marcel's relationship with the grandma, and spoiler alert, the grandma passes on, and Marcel's left to cope with that. And apart from her passing on, even leading up to it, him as a caretaker is dealing with a lot of stuff that a lot of people in real life, a lot of the sacrifices that people make on behalf of other people as they're taking care of them, have to deal with. Like, he didn't want to do the 60-minute special, he didn't want to stress out, all that stuff. So you're like passing on opportunities, and you're seeing tunnel vision because your one focus is just caring for this person that you're caring about. And that kind of reminded me of this music video. If you haven't seen it, honestly, like it's heavy, but it is stop motion also, and so we can kind of tie it in that way. But it's a song called "Moving On" by James, and it uses yarn to sort of tell a story of this relationship.
Oh, cool.
I highly recommend it. It's like one of the coolest music videos I've ever seen.
Nice.
But it is heavy, but it goes, kind of ties into this. And so I would, if Adam would permit me to show a music video at his drive-in, I would definitely show that. "Moving On" by James.
We could we'll play it during the intermission,
Yeah.
Nice. There we go. In between.
Followed by the Parks and Rec clips.
That would be right. People would watch it and be like, you know what? I don't know if I could handle Marcel. Yeah.
I'm out of here. Yeah, Adam would be pissed. He needs butts and seats.
Yeah, exactly.
The man's got
That's true.
kids to feed, I assume.
I might have
got to make a paycheck.
I might have just blown the opportunity to show it. Like, no.
Well, I still like your picks. So, Ethan, you said you have trouble doing double features. My trick is you just find one little hook and just go off of that, right? Like something about the movie, right? Because I have the same problem. Like, I have famously bad recall, like in the moment. If I'm trying to remember a specific thing, all the things I know about that thing go away, right?
Disappeared.
So if you're like, name a movie about this, I'm like, Goodfellas. They're like, no, I said about I don't know. Anyways, so the hook I chose for this double feature was just Jenny Slate. I want more Jenny Slate. So I went through her IMDb. I picked something animated. She does a lot of voice work. And I want to watch the Lego Batman movie.
Oh, yeah.
So
nice.
I think we'll probably watch Marcel first. And then we'll end the night. We'll end the night on a more whimsical note and watch her be Harley Quinn in the Lego Batman.
Listen, I talked about Wall-E being not respected enough. Lego Batman movie is so good. It's so fucking incredible. Good. I love it.
I heard it's super good, and my girls started it the other day. We made it 15 minutes in and then had to shut it off. We had something to do. I low-key might just go watch that tonight. You might have just inspired me, Tyler.
Yeah.
I think it's my favorite Lego movie out of all of them. Michael Cera is Robin and Zach Galifianakis is Joker.
Will Arnett, right?
Will Arnett's great too.
Batman,
I think it's the best one
such a
they've
good
done.
Batman voice.
I told my Lego Batman story on the pod once. I can't remember what episode. So you'll have to go dig through our entire library.
It's good hook.
There's an Easter egg.
Okay, I'll tell it.
Okay, tell it again.
No, so we went to go see Lego Batman, and it was, I don't know, I don't fall asleep during movies, ever. Especially movies that I'm enjoying, like Lego Batman. For whatever reason. Who knows?
Didn't you fall asleep in Ant-Man? recently?
Oh,
he said enjoy.
You had a
so
letterbox.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say you said good movie.
Fair. You had a letterbox review recently where you lamented falling asleep during a movie. I thought it was Quantumania, but I guess
okay.
the qualifier was you enjoyed
at the time of this occurrence, it was not.
As a younger man,
yeah.
as a younger man.
When I saw Lego Batman, it didn't happen often. I don't know how or why it happened, but I did fall asleep for the majority of Lego Batman. And I'm sitting next to my wife, who happens to be like the biggest Harry Potter fan I know. And I wake up at a point where Voldemort is doing something on the screen. And I wake up and I like nudge my wife. I'm like, it's Voldemort. like she hadn't been watching the whole movie or like realized.
Like, where did you come from?
Like, yeah, like that's Voldemort, Ange. Babe.
I love that you wake up to like mansplain the movie. Like, hey, that's Voldemort.
In case you didn't know.
So
don't say his name though. That's
so
Voldemort. But no one can say his name.
Man.
Oh boy,
that's hilarious. I forgot about that. It's so good.
Poor Angie.
Yeah, seriously. Sorry, Ange. And I still haven't. So I might be with Ethan. Ethan, we might need to watch party it.
Yeah, dude.
Tonight.
Let's live tweet that thing tonight.
There we go.
Yeah.
Is that stop motion? Should I switch my Kubo pick next week?
Yeah,
there you
Lego
go.
Batman.
It's not a terrible idea. I really do want to watch Kubo, but I love the Lego Batman
It's
movie.
so good.
Yeah, that's one. That came out when I was in Austin, so I watched that at Alamo Draft House, which was real.
Jealous.
Real great. Highly recommend. Okay, so we've left the drive-in. Adam needs us gone. He's got to clean up. We've only got one more place we can go, so we're gonna head to Rushmore Mountain.
These are OR scrubs. Oh, are they?
And we are going to fill out our Searching for Family Rushmore Mountain. Movies about, you guessed it, searching for family.
Nice.
And let's go with Matt. Matt, why don't you kick us off here?
Okay. Oh man. Searching for family. I have to go with I gotta go Elf. You know?
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
He gets that identity crisis where he just has to know. He has to know. And he goes on in a journey of a lifetime, saves Christmas, and finds a new family.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't get more heartwarming than that.
Jon Favreau at his maybe not his finest, but it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty goodest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the man who created the MCU. Like,
Yeah.
The Elf's pretty good. But,
Elf's pretty solid.
But I mean, really though, like, when is the last time before that we had something that became a staple at the holidays?
Right.
Obviously mixed nuts, but like before that, it was like it was Christmas
Cranks,
Vacation or something
sure.
like that. You know what I mean? Like it had been since the 80s since we had like a Christmas Story or whatever that was like, no, this is on every Christmas. And then somehow we got something in the 2000s like, no, like Elf is just on now every single Christmas. Dude. And that's a testament, I think, to how great it is.
Yeah.
That, like I think it takes something to, get into the culture like that.
Totally.
Elf came out in 2003. Christmas with the Cranks came out in 2004. So we had a double feature year. 2 years. That was really impressive.
And only
stuff.
one of those has Jamie Lee Curtis in bikini. So
that's
both
true.
Great movies. Both great movies.
Both great.
True.
And Tim Allen trying to just beat Tim Allen.
Eat some peaches.
Okay. Yeah. That movie makes Ethan happy, which makes me happy. So
makes you so happy.
Hey, I'm a Cranks guy, Ethan. So I'm here with you.
Matt and I were connected at the soul.
A little behind the scenes here we're going off track here, and I'm sorry, but like Ethan, you had a pod back in the day called Final Take.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that I had like reached out to you to talk to you, but I was listening to it. And you and your co-host were doing like top Christmas movies.
Yeah. Did I pick it as number one?
Yeah, you picked it as number one. And
yes.
I was in my office at work, and out loud I said, "What the fuck?" Like it caught me so off guard. I was like, Christmas with like I had no clue what was going on. It really caught me off guard. But I was like, dude, all right, this is perfect. So
I'm bringing that chaos energy from day one. That's me, man.
I love it.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, Christmas. Like we don't need to go. I'm just thinking of like all the Christmas movies that a person could pick. But I think that's what's cool about Christmas movies in particular is everyone has their own thing, right? Like Matt, you have Mixed Nuts, and I'm the one that has the most popular one that Christmas Vacation. That's the one that everyone watches at Christmas. You know what I mean? At least from my experience. So. Yeah. But I think it's cool. I think everyone has like their thing. Some people are Christmas Story families. Some people are whatever. So I think it's cool. I think it's great. And Ethan, don't ever stop being you, please.
I appreciate
Don't ever
that.
stop loving Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have heard from Ben, and we've
heard from Matt.
Only Matt. Well, let's hear from Ben since I just brought you up.
Hey, that's me. One of my favorites, I was listening to a podcast I love called Screen Drafts, and they did like the top Steven Spielberg produced movies. In all of January, they did Steven Spielberg stuff. And they mentioned a movie that I had forgotten about, but that I love and I think fits this thing perfectly. Came out in 1986, nominated for an Oscar. It is Don Bluth's An American Tale, about our little guy, Fievel. I loved that movie as a kid. I haven't watched it in a long time. But the plot line here is while immigrating to the United States, a young Russian mouse gets separated from his family and must relocate them while trying to survive in a new country. I remember part of it is like they don't think that like there's cats in America or something. And then obviously they find that that's not true. So just all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I think it also kind of fits well, even just size wise with Marcel, but I just remember really loving that movie as a kid. I love American Tail. Also a great sequel, Fievel Goes West. Definitely worth checking out, but I would stick with the first one for this, for Searching for Family. I'm going to go with An American Tale.
Love it.
Love it.
Nice.
I love that very much. Okay, Ethan, what have you got here?
Bring it to me. Okay. Mine's a little unconventional, probably, but I just had to write a grad paper on this movie, and a large portion of that was about how it is a found family movie, essentially. I'm going with probably a top 10 all-time movie, in my opinion. Boogie Nights, PTA, incredible flick. Dirk Diggler, just trying to find some family. He's just trying to be loved. He just wants to find his people, and he does it.
Movie.
It's a family movie.
Family oriented. Show the kids. Have a great family time.
Sometime.
Yeah.
It's a win all the way around. And he finds his family, and then he gets abandoned by said family. So there's that. But it's I'm going with Boogie Nights, dude.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, my bad.
I think that's great. This is a very family friendly Rushmore because I'm going to pick Homeward Bound here.
Nice. Okay.
In all honesty,
I'm sorry to ruin the vibe.
No. Well, that's what I like about your pick is it's if anything, I'm ruining the vibe. Mine's the one that's going to make you cry, right? Like if I remember, I haven't seen Homeward Bound in a very long time, but anyways, I thought of it, but I wasn't sure if it counted, but I asked Ben behind the scenes and he gave it the okay. So I'm going to use Homeward Bound here, but I like yours, Ethan, because it sort of breaks us out of like the family friendly, you got to have something for every one of these lists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
what's more family friendly than 70s porn industry, but whatever.
I can't think of very many things that, anyways. But yeah, was there anything else you guys wanted to cover here? Anything else you wanted to talk about? I mean, I don't know. I really love this movie. I feel like we could go minute by minute, scene by scene, but I'd rather people just go watch the movie. But if there's anything else you guys wanted to talk about, I mean, speak now.
I just want to shout out my guy, Marcel.
Oh, nice.
My guy.
The whole time with his big shoes.
Love Marcel.
If you're not watching YouTube, you didn't see that.
You have no idea.
He could have been doing anything and you wouldn't know.
Anything at all.
You don't know that Ben has a full back Marcel tattoo.
I was going to say, Marcel
perfect.
tat came out.
Well, all right then. I guess that's going to do it. Ethan, why don't you take one more moment to, plug yourself.
Yeah.
Go plug yourself, Ethan.
Go plug yourself.
Yeah, let me plug myself. 24 Minutes of A24 podcast with Ben and I. We are currently covering the Oscars, but I guess maybe by the time this comes out, we'll be done. Probably we'll be talking about A24 movies again. So go find us on Twitter, on Instagram. We're also on YouTube, 24 Minutes of A24. And follow me on Twitter at Ethan Simmie. I feel like I tweet some pretty funny movie stuff, but most of it's just heat memes and quotes. So, enter at your own risk, I guess.
Ethan's a good film Twitter follow. I
appreciate that. Thank you, Tyler.
Your contributions to the Twitter sphere. And speaking of all the socials, again, you can find us at 3 Films Pod everywhere. We're very cool, very hip, and very online. We have a website, 3filmspod.com. Check us out there. Buy some of Matt's merch. And in the meantime, just keep listening. Keep being a valued member of Movie Club. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.
Later.
I like to go there a lot because it reminds me that I'm not just one separate piece rattling around in this place, but that I'm part of a whole. And I truly enjoy the sound of myself connected to everything.